It turns out this alien might be as strong as Sukuna, and in today's video I'll be explaining everything you need to know. To start things off, chapter 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo just came out earlier today, and if you're watching this video, I'm assuming you know what JJK Modulo is. If you don't, then there is a video on screen that I recommend you check out, where I break down the entire first chapter, but for everyone else, we're about to do a page-by-page breakdown of chapter 2. Alright, so in the first page, we get a flashback to when the aliens first arrived in Japan, and we see Usami and his assistant going to meet them. Now, what was interesting about this is that clearly people were telling them not to go because of like health risks and stuff like that. And it kind of makes sense, you know, if aliens come from outer space, they're going to have all sorts of diseases or things that might kill you straight away. And despite that, Usami still wanted to meet them because we can tell from this chapter, he is kind of afraid that if he does something wrong or if humanity offends the aliens in any type of way, then it might just start a war. For that reason, he was willing to meet them and shake their hand, even though he has no protection from alien diseases or whatever, because, like I said, he just wants to avoid a war that badly. For the Simurians, their diplomat was a guy called Jabaloma, and this is where I admit I got baited, because last week I said that this guy looks exactly like Tengen, and to be honest, he does from a distance, but when we see him up close, they don't really look that similar. I mean, yeah, they have a similar head shape, but besides that, nothing really to connect them. Anyway, when Jabaloma arrived, he was accompanied by this guy called Cross, who we'll talk about later, but for now, the only thing we need to know is that he is Maru's twin brother. As everyone then gets ready for the meeting, one thing that Usami notices is that the aliens speak Japanese. And this is really interesting because it means that from an intelligence gathering perspective, if the Simurians speak Japanese, then it means they're able to understand Japanese intel. So for example, if they were able to hack into the Japanese government systems, they would be able to read that and understand that. Whereas if the Japanese were to try and hack into the Simurian ship and trying to find out information about them, they wouldn't understand it because they don't speak the Simurian language. This gives the Simurians a natural advantage when it comes to information warfare, but you might be asking, how do they speak Japanese? Well, the answer is we don't know, but I would theorize that it might be something to do with their third eye, because when we Google what the third eye means in Buddhism, it says that the third eye symbolizes the ability to perceive the true nature of reality. I probably don't need to explain that a lot of the things we've seen in JJK is inspired directly by Buddhism, and I think this is another example of that. The aliens with these third eyes, they're able to see the universe and, perceive reality in a way that humans can't. That is possibly a reason why they're able to speak the language of whoever they're talking to, or maybe they just have blue lock level technology. I mean, either way, let me know what you think in the comments down below, but for now, I am going with the third eye theory. I think it's because of these eyes that they can speak all these different languages. Shortly after everyone sits down, Jabaloma asks if they can bring one more person to the meeting, and that person is the king of the Simurians. I say he's the king because he was sitting on the throne on their ship, but either way, whether he is or he isn't, he is definitely the strongest person they have to offer. The reason Jabaloma had to ask if this guy would be allowed in is because his aura is so intense that you know he could kill you at any second. This is the same vibe people got from Sukuna, it's the same vibe they got from Yuta, and it's the same vibe they got from Gojo. As soon as this person walks in the room, everyone knows, he could kill me anytime. While we don't know what his curse technique is, just by looking at him, you can see a few interesting things in his design. For example, he has the massive pair of horns that no other Simurian seems to have, and he also has tattoos on his body, I want to say. I mean, whatever it is, it's kind of in the same vein as Sukuna, like the strongest person in the series has to have weird markings on their body. I don't make the rules, that's just seemingly how it is. Following the meeting, Usami and his assistant felt lucky to even be alive, and we learned a few interesting things from this conversation. Number one, based on the strength of the 3 aliens that they met, the Simurians could easily overtake Japan. And this is a theme that was mentioned in the previous chapter, where it was said that sorcerers these days don't compare to Yuji or Gojo. Number 2, the Simurians are withholding crucial details about their backstory, so while they all claim to be refugees, the truth is Japan just doesn't know. I mean, the reality is that all of these guys could be invaders planning to take over the earth, but for now, Japan just has to take their word for it that they are refugees. Number 3, Mino, who's this guy, was concerned that when the public finds out about the aliens, then they're going to have a lot of anti-alien sentiment in the country. And this is something that wouldn't be a surprise because according to what they've been talking about, Japan has become very isolated from the rest of the world. Politically, it sounds like in the last 60 plus years, Japan has basically not been cooperating with other nations very well, and they've become a lot more nationalist in their ideology. For that reason, if alien refugees were to start living in Japan, it could lead to war, and this is something obviously that Usami doesn't want to happen. To avoid this, he wants the Simurians and humanity to work together, and in particular, he wants the Simurians to love humanity. He wants them to, see the good side of what Japan has to offer. That's why he puts his faith in the Okkotsu siblings, because in his words, they represent the spirit of the new era, and he feels like if they were to interact with the aliens, that could lead to the aliens having a favorable view of humanity. This gives us a ton of important context for the first chapter, because in the beginning of that, it was Usami who introduced Maru to the kids, and at the time, Maru was undercover, so we didn't know if Usami thought he was a human or an alien. But now looking at this flashback, it's clear that he knew Maru was an alien, and he intentionally chose the kids to meet him because they represent the best of humanity. The chapter then flashes forward to the present day, shortly after the human trafficker was arrested. In this moment, Yuka and Tsurugi were debating about whether Maru is an alien, and Yuka makes a valid point that there are a lot of weird looking sorcerers, but no, Tsurugi is pretty sure that Maru is an alien because of the fact that he has the extra eye. The problem was that they couldn't confirm this, because if they asked Maru himself, then he's obviously going to say no, and if they ask Usami, then it's highly likely this information is classified and he just won't tell them. For that reason, they decide that the best person to ask is the human trafficker himself, the one who revealed that aliens exist in the first place. You might be wondering though, why would he even help them after they captured him? Well, the reason for this is pretty simple. He knows that bad things happen to cursed users like him who use their powers for serious crimes. His hope was that if he tells these kids what they want to know, that they'll do something so stupid and so chaotic that it might give him a chance to escape. In this panel, Tsurugi asks him how he found out the truth about the aliens, and the guy replies by saying that any info managed digitally will be leaked. As an audience, we don't know whether this info was leaked to him by someone in the government, or if he hacked into it and got it that way. I mean, the exact details aren't really important, to be honest. What is important is that he somehow gained access to classified info that even the public and many sorcerers don't know about. In this panel, he reveals that the alien mothership is currently floating above Japan, but no one in the country can see it because of a barrier technique similar to a curtain. That is actually pretty amazing if true. The fact that this ship carrying 50,000 Simurians, it must be pretty big. For a barrier technique to hide that entire thing consistently, it must be a pretty powerful barrier user. I feel like in the original series, only Tengen and maybe SUKUNA would be able to do this. Besides that, I honestly don't even think Gojo could manage something like that. Regardless, the curse user goes on to reveal that the aliens have been self-sufficient while they were traveling through space, but now that they've arrived on Earth, they're going to need to get some supplies. This provides an opportunity for the kids to see the ship, because while the supplies are being loaded on board, any sorcerers in the area will temporarily be able to see through the barrier. For Yuka and Tsurugi, this was their one chance to confirm that the aliens are real, because like I said earlier, Maru's not going to tell them, and the Jujutsu higher-ups are also not going to tell them. So this was their only way to confirm it independently. The next day, they then follow the directions that were given to them by the trafficker, and they arrive at a certain region of mountains where the aliens were said to be. At exactly 8 PM, Cross, who's Maru's twin brother, he was there ready to send up the supplies, and as he stood there, the ship became visible to Tsurugi and Yuka. For a bit of context though, just before this happened, the two siblings were discussing the ring situation and the fact that Tsurugi doesn't want to give it back. His reason is that he doesn't feel strong enough yet to give it back, because like I mentioned in my last review, his perspective is that the ring is a symbol of weakness and that he can only give it away once he's reached Maki's levels of strength. In this panel, he outright says that he wants to be as powerful as her, and he references her massacre of the entire Zenin clan. For Yuka, she acknowledges that the ring is one of the main reasons why they want to get stronger, but at the same time, it's not the only reason. The second reason is revealed after we see the ship, and to put it simply, if something happens with the aliens like a war, it's Jujutsu sorcerers who have to take care of it. Given that Maki and Yuta are the best sorcerers they know and the ones they admire the most, the two siblings want to get stronger because they want to be the ones to fill that void. I actually think this is a really great setup, because if Yuka achieves her goal of becoming the next Yuta Okkotsu, and if Tsurugi achieves his goal of becoming the next Maki, then Tsurugi will be able to give away the ring like he wanted to, and Yuka will be able to accept it like she wants to. So the ring is sort of like a prize that would demonstrate that they've reached the level of their grandparents. On the next page, we then get to see Maru and Cross interact for the first time, and the two siblings couldn't be more different. While Maru is incredibly friendly and extroverted, Cross is, a man of few words. He doesn't really say that much, and when he does, it's very factual and to the point, and doesn't really show any emotion. During their conversation, Cross says that Maru needs to stay with the sorcerers and just keep observing them, but from Maru's perspective, he doesn't need to do this anymore because, from his one mission, he's realized that humans are just like the Simurians, by which he meant that there were both good people and bad people. Cross replies by saying this doesn't really matter because what humans consider to be good and bad, that might be different from what Simurians consider to be good and bad. And so, to know whether they can coexist, they need more information. According to Cross, the possibility of war with the humans, it is still very, it's on the table. And so if you want to avoid that conflict, then it's necessary for Maru to keep gathering information and to understand more about the humans. On the next page, Cross then reveals that he has his own job to do on Earth, and so while Maru is hanging out with the sorcerers, Cross will be doing something else. We have no idea what it is at this point, but he has been given some kind of mission. As the two twins then go their separate ways, Maru invites Cross out for breakfast the next day, and his sibling replies by saying he's busy. This kind of relationship was alluded to in chapter 1, when Maru said that he's tried time and time again to kind of mend things with his brother, and every time he's been rejected. The chapter then ends with the Okkotsu siblings trying to get the train back home, because the location that they went to where the alien ship was, it was hours away from Kyoto. The problem is that while Yuka was able to get through, Tsurugi didn't have enough money in his account to travel, and he also forgot to bring his student pass, which I guess would have allowed him to travel, but he doesn't have it at the moment. In order for him to travel, he needed to relink his student pass to his hologram-looking watch on his arm, and so he just tells Yuka to go on without him while he spends time relinking it. The chapter then moves on to Cross looking down on Earth and kind of just thinking to himself about it, and as he's doing this, he gets interrupted by Tsurugi. There's not really an explanation as to how Tsurugi found him on this roof and why he was even on the roof in the first place, but as he sees Cross, he mistakes him for his twin brother. Thinking that this is Maru, he goes up to him and says that he's not allowed to be on the roof because if he stays there, people will think he's Cross then bluntly tells him to shut up and stop talking to him, and immediately disappears, just vanishes into thin air like he's Batman or something. The chapter then ends with Tsurugi wondering what the hell is wrong with Maru, not realizing that it's a different person. Overall, chapter 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo, it was a good follow-up from the last one, and it did answer a handful of questions, and it also gave us more questions, like why is this guy apparently a SUKUNA level threat? Because this is Jujutsu Kaisen, obviously they will end up fighting this guy at some point, so it's only a matter of time until we find out his technique, and I genuinely wonder, Gege loves SUKUNA so much, I genuinely wonder, is it possible for him to write a character who's stronger than SUKUNA? I doubt it. I feel like this guy will not reach the SUKUNA level threat that we saw, because to do that would be to say that SUKUNA is not the strongest in the universe, and I don't think that's something that Gege would ever do. Anyway, be sure to like the video and subscribe if you want me to do more chapter reviews like this. I haven't reviewed anything weekly for a long time, so this very much depends on your guys' support, like how much you want to watch it and how much you're liking it and commenting. So yeah, if you want more of this, then you have to let me know. As always, thank you for watching, and until the next one, peace out.